Let us do this, guys. I'm interested in agriculture. Fair enough. So for those of you who are not interested in agriculture, I'm interested in food. Like, seriously? Now that's the beginning of our problems. So, today, I am going to be talking to you about why the future of farming is not farming. Do you know that over 80 million Nigerians make a living through agriculture? Staggering number, right? About 50% of the Nigerian population. But despite our huge involvement in agriculture, Nigeria spends about $6.8 billion annually importing food. Compare these numbers, for instance, with the US. Depending on which statistics you take, only between 3 and 5% of the population are into agriculture, yet they make billions exporting agricultural produce. Obviously, there is no shortage of manpower or even the willingness to earn a decent living amongst our rural farmers. However, the agricultural system in Nigeria is marred by several challenges. Chief among them is agricultural financing. So, it's either the financial institutions do not understand agricultural financing, or they are risk averse and will not invest because of the risk involved, or because they have better alternatives to make money from. And because rural farmers cannot have access to financing, they remain, my slides? So they remain rural farmers forever. Secondly, because they can't afford finance or they can't find access to finance, then they cannot afford machineries or improved seedlings to make farming better for Nigeria and in Nigeria. And that takes us to the next problem, the lack of farm extension services in Nigeria. There is actually one farm extension worker to 10,000 rural farmers in Nigeria. The ideal proportion is one extension worker to 100 farmers. So you tell me, how do you manage that? Unfortunately, even the 1 to 10,000 that we have are people who are products of certificate rather than certificate. So you have an agric engineer, for instance, who spends 5 years in school, but at the end of his course, he goes to a roadside technician and asks him to fabricate his final year project. You have a farm extension worker or a soil scientist who actually has never been to the field or doesn't even know what a combine harvester means or looks like. So you end up with rural farmers like this. The fourth biggest problem for us in this country is that despite the number and the level of production, depending on what crop and what numbers you take, we lose between 40% to up to 70% of what is produced in Nigeria to post-harvest losses. The roads are bad, logistics is near zero, and you can continue to name the problems. So, TEDx asked me, what now? We need a strong paradigm shift from business as usual. We might not realize this, but there is a looming crisis that is about to hit the world, and by extension, Nigeria, and everywhere else. So the statistics says that by 2050, our numbers, our population will hit 350 million. If we continue to produce food at the rate that we're producing today, we are going to starve by the year 2050. Because only those who can afford it will buy very expensive food, sometimes end up with rubber rice and rubber fish. The rest of us will probably have to rob them to take their food. There can never be national security without food security. And this is the kind of thinking that makes me left the bank, left the oil sector, and move into agriculture, somewhat of an outsider. 0 degree in agriculture or agribusiness. I am a product of certificate. So I started off with my small poultry farm, but my objective when I started was simple. We are going to produce healthy, organic, and affordable chicken and egg. And because of that, we don't use antibiotics, we don't use multivitamins. So in place of multivitamins, we were using sweet melon, carrot, and cabbage. In place of antibiotic, we were using ginger and garlic. But when you are doing initial gra-gra the way I'm doing, then you begin to see all the other problems in the sector. All those statistics I was talking to you about, it was after here that I realized it. Because then now I can't afford feed for my birds because the price of maize has gone from 8,000 to 36,000. So I said, no, we need to do something about the value chain. I started as a farmer. So I need to move to the future of farming, which is agribusiness. I started by putting together, influencers and community leaders. This was me discussing at the palace of the Emir of Karshi, where I was demonstrating the green cedar hand planter to them, a tool I got from Oklahoma State University, and thankfully we're successfully fabricating it now in Kaduna. Actually, the first to do that. We're already talking with people in Kenya and Rwanda to begin to export this because it costs about $150 to make one in the US. We're doing it for less than $40 in Nigeria. Now, in Karshi, I was able to talk the Emir into giving us a lease on 500 hectares. The first thing the man said to me, he looked at me and said, what will you do with 500 hectares? And I'm like, I'll farm it. Now we got that lease, and we have been able to engage 500 rural farmers in Karshi. 1 farmer per hectare. So we're training these people, and we're also providing them with farm inputs, like, hybrid seeds, fertilizers, and, farm extension services. We're starting that as a pilot, and we hope to move across board. But then once we're doing that, so specifically, I'm like, okay, we are going to be growing only 3 things for the pilot: corn, soybeans, and groundnuts. Reason is simple. Those are the primary input of poultry feed. So 70% of poultry feed is those. Now I solved that problem, at least for myself, for now, and other smallholder farmers around me. But then, the problem keeps coming. You see, when we talk about innovation, people think, yeah, drone agriculture, that's very beautiful, I love it. We talk about combined harvesters, that's very beautiful, I love it, but that costs tons of money. So I am not even looking there yet. I'm looking at doing the simple things that help to improve the productivity and improve the livelihood of rural farmers, increase productivity, and better all of us, for starters. That is us taking soil samples to the lab. I sent this to UniAgric in Makurdi, where we tested and did yield suitability analysis, and we didn't just plant. The average rural farmer in Nigeria just plants his seed. And you ask him, he says, well, that's how my father did it, that's how his father did it, and his father before him. Why are you even planting 2 seeds in a hole? I tell you what, probably the corn he is planting is in its 30th generation. After the 4th generation of the seed, please don't put it in the soil, eat it. Another biggest problem, 60% of the cost of grain production goes to fertilizer. So what do? I learned about organic fertilizer. So we have successfully created a cycle of zero-waste agriculture. All the grain produced by the rural farmers goes to our feed mill. The feed mill produces the feed for our fish and our chicken. The chicken eat the feed, produce meat and egg, and then they produce drop-in, which is supposed to be agricultural waste. No, we don't waste it. We take all of that and we collect all the grasses and the other agricultural waste around us. We use the chicken droppings to inoculate the grasses and turn it into organic fertilizer. Only yesterday evening, my people were running the numbers and they told me, actually, Alex Smith was like, you know what? We saved $9,000 in fertilizer cost this. Like, show me the numbers. I didn't even know. This year alone, we did 30 tons of organic fertilizer. We need to go big, all of us. But then, remember I told you, in all of these efforts, where's the money coming from? We need to go big. So I'm the kind of person who is of the complaint generation that refuses to complain, wants to be an adaptive leader, and show results. Because that is the only way I can make people believe in me and understand me and invest in me. So our next baby, in case you're wondering, why is this farmer wearing a suit? It's because I am the chief farmer in suit. So our next baby, which ironically I'm only unveiling today at the TED event, is the farmer in suit. It's an investment solution that provides professionals, even rich students, sometimes we have them, bankers or ex-bankers, or excellencies, who have resources and understand the problem of global food security and want to invest and help in fighting this monster, but either do not have the time or do not have the knowledge to be farmers. Or maybe they just don't want to get dirty. So say, look, we give you a guarantee on your money and a guarantee on a profit. Give us that money. We are going to invest it in the rural farmers by way of providing them with training, providing them with farming food, mechanization, improved seedlings, and we also provide a market for their products. So at the end of it, we buy up all the grains that they produce, put it in the feed mill, we make animal feed, give it to our animals, our poultry and our fish. When they are up to market size, what do? We process them and package them and send them to Abuja and Lagos, and our farmer in suits buy them. So by extension, we achieve 3 things. The first one is we are creating a platform where we're able to find investment, cheap investment for that matter, from people who care, to fund a system. That system helps the rural farmers. That system helps improve the productivity of agricultural production and productivity of the rural farmers. That system helps to provide local jobs. And that system helps to solve the food security challenge of Nigeria, Africa, and by extension, the world. The second thing we're doing is that we are institutionalizing agri-financing. The banks can do whatever they want. We need to move away from this certificate mentality because the educational system is designed to produce civil servants who are bureaucratic and push papers. The educational system is not designed to produce inventors and innovators. And we must begin to think, did I say outside the box? No. Who created the box? Why the box? We just need to think like babies. Be free. We need to be problem solvers, not problem complainers. Not too much complaint. Go to Twitter Nigeria. The final thing we're doing with the farmer in suit is that we are democratizing prosperity through agriculture and agribusiness. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you finally, it's not the government. The politicians will disagree. It's not the government. It's not the president or the governors. It's not even the Dangotes or the Tony Elumelus of our time that will make Nigeria great. It is the aggregate achievements of individuals that will make Nigeria a great nation. A final call, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever you do, whether you are a banker, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, in your own little corners, please be a change maker, be an adaptive leader, solve a problem. Thank you for listening.